The alarm screamed through the colony of New Portland. People ran through the dusty streets, their faces filled with terror. Above them, massive ships blocked out the sun. These were not human ships. Captain Jake Harrison gripped the armrest of his command chair as his ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The Defiant was a small frigate, built for speed rather than heavy combat. Through the main view screen, he could see the colony burning below. "How many ships?" Jake asked. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez checked her instruments. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls. "3 Vorash cruisers, Captain. They have troops on the ground already." Jake felt his jaw tighten. The Vorash were known throughout the galaxy as brutal warriors. They stood 8 feet tall with scales like armor covering their bodies. Their claws could tear through metal. Every species they encountered either bowed down or died fighting. "Get me a visual of the colony surface," Jake ordered. The screen changed to show the main square of New Portland. Jake's hands formed fists. Vorash warriors stood in formation around a group of colonists. These were miners and their families, not soldiers. They huddled together on their knees while a massive Vorash commander walked among them. The Vorash commander grabbed a colonist by the collar and lifted him off the ground with one hand. The man's feet kicked in the air. The alien's voice came through the communication channel, deep and rumbling like thunder. "You will submit to the Vorash Empire. You will work for us. You will obey." Jake watched as the commander threw the man back to the ground. The colonist's wife ran to him, crying. "Captain, command says to wait for backup," Amy said softly. "3 cruisers are too much for us alone." Jake stood up from his chair. He was not a tall man, but his presence filled the bridge. His crew knew that look in his eyes. "How long until backup arrives?" he asked. 2 hours at best." Jake shook his head. "Those people don't have 2 hours. Ready all weapons. Contact Sergeant Kyle Brooks. Tell him to prepare his Marines for immediate deployment." Amy hesitated for only a moment, then nodded. "Yes, sir." Minutes later, dropships fell from the Defiant toward the colony surface. Inside one of them, Sergeant Kyle Brooks checked his rifle one more time. Around him, 20 Marines did the same. They were scared but ready. "Listen up," Kyle said to his team. "These Vorash think they're the toughest things in the galaxy. They think we'll run away. Let's show them what humans do when someone threatens our people." The dropship doors opened and the Marines poured out. The Vorash soldiers turned toward them, surprised by the attack. They had expected the humans to negotiate first. Kyle's voice echoed across the squad's communication channel. "Split into teams. Use the buildings for cover. Don't stand and fight them head-on. Move, shoot, and move again." The Marines scattered through the colony streets. The Vorash charged after them, roaring their battle cries. But the humans disappeared around corners, climbed onto rooftops, and used every advantage they could find. A Vorash warrior crashed through a door, looking for the humans who had shot at him. He found only an empty room. Then the floor exploded beneath him. Kyle had planted mines throughout the buildings. "They're using coward tactics," one Vorash soldier growled into his communicator. "They're using smart tactics," his commander corrected him, annoyed. On the Defiant, Jake guided his ship between the larger Vorash cruisers. His weapons fired precisely, targeting their engine ports and communication arrays. He was not trying to destroy them, just keep them busy and confused. "Captain, we're getting a transmission from the surface," Amy reported. "It's directed at you personally." "Put it through." The main screen showed the Vorash commander from earlier. Behind him, Jake could see more colonists being forced to their knees. The alien's eyes were like yellow fire. "I am Commander Vector of the Vorash Empire. You interrupt our conquest, human. Land your ship and surrender now, or I will execute every colonist here." Jake felt his blood run cold, but his face showed nothing. "Let them go and leave this planet. This is human territory." Vector laughed. It was a harsh sound that made Jake's crew uncomfortable. "Your species is new to the galaxy, human. You do not understand your place yet. We are Vorash. We are the strongest. All others must bow." "I don't bow to anyone," Jake said quietly. Before Vekatar could respond, another alert chimed on the Defiance bridge. A much larger ship appeared on the scanners. This one made the three cruisers look small. "Captain, that's a Vorash command carrier," Amy said, her voice tight with worry. The new ship was massive and covered with weapons. On its bridge stood a Vorash who made the others look weak. His scales were darker, almost black. Scars covered his body like medals. This was Krothak the Mighty, one of the most feared warlords in the galaxy. Krothak had heard about the human resistance and decided to handle this personally. He took a shuttle down to the colony surface, leaving his ship to deal with the Defiant. Jake saw this on his sensors. "Amy, take command of the ship. Keep those cruisers busy. I'm going down there." "Captain, that's suicide," she protested. "That's an order, Lieutenant." Jake reached the colony just as Krothak stepped out of his shuttle. The massive alien walked through the burning streets until he found the main square. There, he saw Kyle's Marines helping wounded colonists toward the evacuation point. Jake ran in front of them, his weapon ready. He positioned himself between Krothak and the civilians. Krothak stopped. He looked down at Jake with something like amusement in his eyes. This human was so small compared to him. The alien's voice boomed across the square, carried by speakers in his armor. "Kneel, human!" The words echoed off the buildings. Every colonist, every Marine, every Vorash soldier stopped to watch. This was the moment that would define everything. Jake looked up at the massive warrior. Dust and blood covered his uniform. He was exhausted and outnumbered. By all logic, he should surrender. Instead, something like a smile crossed his face. Then Jake Harrison laughed. It was not a nervous laugh or a fearful one. It was genuine and filled with defiance. "I only kneel to bury you," Jake said clearly. The square went silent. Krothak's eyes widened slightly. In all his years of conquest, no one had ever responded this way. Above them, the Defiant fired a massive barrage, creating a wall of explosions between the Vorash and the humans. Amy's voice came through Jake's communicator. "Captain, extraction window now! Move!" Kyle's Marines grabbed the colonists and ran for the evacuation ships. Jake backed away slowly, his weapon still pointed at Krothak. The alien could have charged him, could have killed him, but something made him pause. As the humans lifted off, Krothak stood in the burning square, watching them escape, his fists clenched at his sides. That human's words echoed in his mind. "I only kneel to bury you." The defiant statement spread through communication channels. Human colonies heard it, Vorash fleets heard it. It became a rallying cry and a declaration of war. Krothak made a decision that day. He would find that human captain again. He would make him kneel. He would break this spirit that dared challenge the Vorash Empire. The war had begun. The Vorash High Council gathered in their throne room on the capital world of Vorath Prime. 12 ancient warriors sat in massive chairs carved from black stone. They had ruled the empire for centuries, and no species had ever successfully defied them. Krothak stood before them, his head held high despite his failure at New Portland. He had let the humans escape, and now he needed to convince the Council to give him the forces to crush humanity completely. "The humans are an insult to our empire," Krothak declared. "They do not understand strength. They do not respect power. I request 3 full battle fleets to teach them their place." The eldest council member, Gormak, leaned forward. His scales were gray with age. 3 fleets for 1 small species? You give them too much importance, Krothak. They dishonored me. They dishonored all Vorash. Krothak's voice rose. If we allow this challenge to stand, others will see us as weak. The council discussed among themselves. Finally, Gormak nodded. Very well, you will have your fleets. Destroy the humans quickly and return. We have other territories to maintain. Krothak bowed and left the chamber. Outside, his second-in-command Jalren waited for him. Jalren was younger than most Vorash commanders, and he thought differently than the others. Do you really believe the humans will fall easily? Jalren asked as they walked. They are weak. They rely on tricks and cowardice, Krothak said firmly. When they face our full might, they will break. Jalren said nothing more, but doubt lingered in his mind. On Earth, in the command center of the Earth Defense Force, General Lisa Morton studied the holographic display before her. It showed Vorash fleet movements throughout their territory. 3 fleets were converging on human space. Each fleet contained enough firepower to burn entire planets. How long do we have? She asked her staff. 2 weeks before they reach our outer colonies, an officer replied. Lisa had spent the last few days studying everything she could about the Vorash. She read reports from other species who had fought them. She watched recordings of their battles. A pattern emerged clearly. The Vorash always fought the same way. They relied on their size, their strength, and their reputation. They charged forward, expecting their enemies to either run or surrender. When faced with direct resistance, they simply applied more force. They've never faced an enemy like us, Lisa said to her second-in-command, Colonel Pete Grant. What do you mean, General? Pete asked. Every species they conquered either fought them in open battle or gave up immediately. We're not going to do either. Lisa pointed at the display. The Vorash expect us to defend our colonies directly. Instead, we're going to make them chase us. We'll hit them where they're weak and disappear before they can respond. Guerrilla warfare in space, Pete said, understanding. Exactly. We can't beat them in a straight fight, but we don't need to. We just need to make them bleed until they decide we're not worth the effort. The first test of this strategy came at Titan Station, a massive orbital facility near Saturn. The Vorash sent an entire fleet expecting heavy resistance. The station was important for mining operations and had thousands of workers. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez commanded the defense of Titan Station. Jake and the Defiant were elsewhere, so she had to handle this on her own. She stood on the station's command deck, watching the Vorash fleet approach. Begin evacuation, she ordered. All civilians to the transport ships. Military personnel stay until the last moment. Her crew looked confused. Lieutenant, we're not going to defend the station, one officer asked. Amy smiled slightly. Oh, we're going to defend it. Just not the way they expect. The Vorash fleet arrived in formation, their ships arranged for maximum intimidation. They broadcast a message demanding immediate surrender. Amy ignored it. Instead, she ordered her ships to retreat, pulling back from the station. The Vorash commander, Vekren, watched the human ships flee. See? They run like frightened animals. Take the station. Vorash warriors boarded Titan Station from multiple points. They moved through the corridors expecting resistance, but found the station seemingly abandoned. They reached the command center, the reactor rooms, and the docking bays without fighting anyone. Something is wrong, one Vorash captain said to his commander. Nonsense. They abandoned the station. It is ours, Vekren replied. That's when Amy triggered the traps. Titan Station was a mining facility, which meant it was full of industrial equipment and explosives. Over several days, her engineers had rigged the entire station to be one massive weapon. Explosive charges detonated throughout the station. Mining lasers, redirected and overloaded, fired in unexpected directions. Airlocks opened suddenly, pulling Vorash warriors into space. Coolant systems flooded entire sections with radiation. The Vorash fleet watched in shock as their boarding parties were torn apart. They tried to recall their warriors, but the docking bays were destroyed. Hundreds of Vorash soldiers died in minutes. Then Amy's hidden fleet attacked. Human ships emerged from behind Saturn's rings, from within the shadow of nearby asteroids, and from beneath the orbital plane. They fired missiles and railguns at the confused Vorash vessels. "All ships, target their engines and weapons," Amy commanded. "We're not here to destroy them. We're here to cripple them and make them afraid." The battle lasted 30 minutes. When it ended, the Vorash fleet limped away with heavy damage. They left behind hundreds of their warriors' bodies floating in space around the ruined station. News of the battle spread quickly. Other human colonies prepared similar strategies. The Vorash started taking casualties they had never experienced before. Krothak received the reports with growing fury. In 1 week, his 3 fleets had lost more warriors than they had in the last 10 years of conquest. The humans were not fighting honorably. They used ambushes, traps, and deception. "They fight like vermin," one of his commanders complained. "They hide and strike from shadows. There is no honor in this." Krothak slammed his fist on the table. "Honor? They mock us. Every battle, they humiliate us. We must adapt our tactics." But adapting was difficult. The Vorash had fought the same way for generations. Their culture was built on direct confrontation and displays of strength. Changing their approach felt wrong to them. Jalren suggested using smaller, more mobile units. He recommended setting up their own ambush points and learning from the human tactics. But the older commanders rejected his ideas. "We are Vorash. We do not skulk in shadows like cowards," they said. Krothak, however, was beginning to listen to Jalren. His obsession with defeating the humans was growing stronger. He specifically wanted to find Captain Jake Harrison, the human who had laughed at him and refused to kneel. "Find that human captain," Krothak ordered. "Find his ship. I will face him again, and this time there will be no escape." Jake and the Defiant were indeed active. He led a small group of ships deep into Vorash territory on a risky mission. They attacked supply convoys that carried food, fuel, and ammunition to the Vorash fleets. Kyle and his Marines became experts at boarding Vorash ships. They would breach the hull, fight through the corridors, capture or destroy the cargo, and escape before reinforcements arrived. It was dangerous work, but effective. "These Vorash are tough in a straight fight," Kyle told his team after one mission. "But they're not used to fighting in close quarters where their size is a disadvantage. Use that. Stay mobile. Stay smart." The raids continued for weeks. The Vorash supply lines broke down. Their fleet started running low on ammunition and fuel. Krothak's invasion was grinding to a halt not because of military defeat, but because his forces could not sustain themselves. General Lisa watched the results from Earth with satisfaction. The strategy was working. The Vorash were powerful, but they were not invincible. Humanity was proving that determination and creativity could overcome raw strength. But she also knew this could not last forever. Eventually, the Vorash would adapt or they would commit even more forces. The war was far from over. Krothak stood alone in his command chamber, staring at a holographic image of Jake Harrison. The image was from the security footage at New Portland, frozen at the moment Jake had laughed at him. "I will find you, human," Krothak whispered. "And when I do, you will kneel, or you will die." His hunt for the Defiant intensified. He deployed scout ships to track human movements. He set traps at known supply routes. He was learning, slowly, to think like his enemy. The war was changing both sides. The Vorash were discovering that they were not invincible. The humans were learning that survival required more than just courage. It required adaptation and sacrifice. Neither side knew it yet, but their conflict was about to attract the attention of something far worse than either of them. Jake stood in the briefing room of the Defiant, looking at the holographic star map. Red markers showed Vorash fleet positions. Blue markers showed human forces. The Reds outnumbered the Blues by a significant margin. "This is insane, Captain," Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez said beside him. "You want to take 5 ships into the heart of Vorash territory?" "That's exactly what I want to do," Jake replied calmly. "General Morton gave us clearance. The Vorash are regrouping here." He pointed at a cluster of red markers. This is their main supply depot. If we destroy it, their entire offensive collapses. Amy studied the map more carefully. It's suicide. Even if we succeed, we'll be trapped behind enemy lines with their entire fleet between us and home. Jake smiled. They'll expect us to run back to human space, so we won't. We'll hide in the Crimson Nebula until things cool down. Sergeant Kyle Brooks entered the briefing room. My Marines are ready, Captain. Though I have to say this plan is crazy even by your standards. Crazy is what keeps us alive, Jake said. The Vorash still think in straight lines. They can't imagine we'd deliberately trap ourselves. The mission began 3 days later. 5 human ships, including the Defiant, slipped through Vorash patrol routes using electronic warfare to hide their signatures. They traveled for 2 weeks before reaching their target. The supply depot was enormous. Hundreds of cargo vessels docked with a massive station. Vorash patrol ships moved in predictable patterns around the facility. Remember the plan, Jake told his small fleet. Hit fast, hit hard, and get out before they organize a response. Kyle, you're boarding Team Alpha. Focus on the fuel storage areas. Understood, Captain. The attack came at shift change when the Vorash guards were least alert. Human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel right on top of the depot. Missiles launched immediately, targeting shield generators and communication arrays. Kyle's Marines breached the hull in 3 locations. They moved through the station with practiced efficiency, planting explosives on critical systems. The Vorash guards responded quickly, but the humans were already completing their objectives. Charges set, Kyle reported, heading back to extraction point. But something went wrong. A Vorash cruiser arrived early, blocking their escape route. Then another appeared, and another. Captain, we've got problems, Amy said urgently. Multiple contacts jumping in. Someone knew we were coming. Jake felt his blood run cold. It's a trap. They wanted us to come here. On the bridge of his command ship, Krothak watched the human vessels scramble. He had spent weeks analyzing their attack patterns. He predicted they would eventually strike at this depot, so he set his trap carefully. Close all escape routes, Krothak ordered. I want the ship called Defiant intact. The rest can be destroyed. Jalren stood beside his commander, feeling uneasy. This is risky. If the humans escape again, it will damage morale further. They will not escape, Krothak said with certainty. This time, that human captain will face me properly. Jake made quick decisions. All ships, scatter formation. Don't try to fight together. Make them chase us individually. Rendezvous at the Crimson Nebula if possible. The human ships split apart, each racing in a different direction. The Vorash fleet divided to pursue them, but Krothak's ship followed only the Defiant. He's after us specifically, Amy observed, watching their sensors. That's Krothak's command carrier. I know, Jake said. He wants revenge for New Portland. Fine. Let's lead him to the nebula. The radiation there will scramble his sensors. The chase lasted for hours. Krothak's ship was larger and more powerful, but the Defiant was faster and more maneuverable. Jake pushed his ship to its limits, weaving through asteroid fields and past dying stars. Finally, they reached the Crimson Nebula. The massive cloud of gas and radiation glowed red in space. Jake guided the Defiant into its depths. Sensors are degrading, Amy reported. The radiation is scrambling everything. That works both ways, Jake said. They can't see us either. Krothak refused to give up. He ordered his ship into the nebula, determined to end this chase. Deploy boarding shuttles. If we cannot see them, we will board them and take that ship by force. His elite guard prepared for battle. These were the strongest Vorash warriors, veterans of countless conquests. They launched in armored shuttles, using short-range sensors to track the Defiant. On the Defiant, alarms blared. Multiple boarding craft approaching, Amy said. They're trying to dock with us. Jake knew they could not outrun the boarding parties in the thick nebula. All crew, prepare for boarding. Amy, you have command of the ship. Make them regret coming here." "What are you going to do?" she asked. "I'm going to greet our guests personally." The Vorash shuttles attached to the Defiant's hull. Cutting torches burned through the armor. Massive warriors poured into the corridors, roaring their battle cries. But Amy had prepared the ship. Blast doors sealed sections automatically, separating the boarding parties. Automated defenses activated. Lights went dark, leaving only emergency red lighting. The Vorash found themselves in a maze. They were used to open battlefields where their strength mattered most. Here, in narrow corridors where they could barely move, their size became a disadvantage. Kyle's Marines appeared and disappeared like ghosts. They fired from behind corners, from ventilation shafts, from unexpected angles. They used the ship's own systems against the invaders. One Vorash warrior ripped a door off its hinges, only to find an airlock opening behind it. He and his squad were sucked into space before they could react. Another group of Vorash cornered a small team of Marines. As they advanced for the kill, Kyle triggered explosives that collapsed the floor beneath them. The warriors fell 3 decks before hitting the cargo bay floor. "This is not warfare," one Vorash soldier growled into his communicator. "This is madness." "This is humanity," Kyle replied, having hacked their communications. "Welcome to our world." Krothak personally led the main assault toward the bridge. He was twice as large as any human and covered in battle scars. His claws carved through doors like paper. His roar echoed through the corridors. Jake met him in the main corridor outside the bridge. Behind him, the blast door to the bridge sealed shut, protecting his crew. Jake stood alone, armed only with a plasma rifle and his determination. Krothak stopped, seeing the human who had defied him weeks ago. "Finally. No tricks, no running, just you and me." "That's how you want to do this?" Jake asked. "Fine by me." The alien charged with terrifying speed. Jake rolled aside, firing his weapon at the walls and ceiling, not at Krothak. The shots damaged the structural supports. Part of the ceiling collapsed between them. Krothak smashed through the debris easily, but Jake was already moving, using the ship's layout to his advantage. He led the Vorash commander on a chase through maintenance tunnels too small for the alien's bulk. Frustrated, Krothak tore through walls to follow. He was stronger and more durable, but Jake was faster and smarter about using the environment. They fought for 30 minutes. Jake used every trick he knew. He damaged power conduits that sparked and shocked his opponent. He opened airlocks partially to throw off Krothak's balance. He even used the ship's artificial gravity, toggling it on and off to disorient the massive warrior. Finally, in the cargo bay, Jake trapped Krothak under a container that accidentally fell from damaged supports. The alien was pinned, not injured, but immobilized. Jake stood over him, weapon pointed at Krothak's head. The Vorash commander waited for death, but it did not come. "Kill me, human," Krothak demanded. "Finish this." Jake lowered his weapon slightly. "No, that's not how we do things. You came here to make me kneel, right? You failed. Your warriors are dead or captured. Your trap didn't work. Maybe it's time you realized we're not going to be your victims." He pressed a control on his arm. The container lifted automatically, freeing Krothak. The alien stood slowly, confused. "Go back to your ship," Jake said. "Tell your people what happened here. Tell them that humans don't break. Tell them we'll fight every step of the way and we'll never stop." Krothak stared at the small human in disbelief. By his culture's rules, Jake had won the fight. Jake had shown mercy instead of taking the kill. This was not something the Vorash understood. "Why?" Krothak asked. "Why spare me?" "Because this war doesn't end with me killing you. It ends when your people understand they can't conquer us." Jake gestured toward the airlock. "Now go." Krothak walked slowly to his shuttle. His elite guard, the ones who survived, followed him. As his shuttle returned to his command ship, he remained silent. His warriors expected him to be furious, but instead he seemed thoughtful. The Defiant limped out of the Crimson Nebula several hours later. They had taken damage, but they survived. The other human ships gradually regrouped with them. "Mission successful," Amy reported. "The supply depot is destroyed, and we captured several Vorash soldiers for intelligence." Jake nodded but said nothing. He looked at the view screen, thinking about Krothak's expression when he spared him. Something had changed in that moment. Jake could not explain it, but he sensed the war had shifted somehow. The Vorash were learning that humans were not like other species, and maybe, just maybe, that lesson would save both their peoples from something worse that was coming. Krothak sat in a secured room aboard the Defiant. The door was locked, but he made no attempt to escape. He simply sat on the reinforced bench, staring at the wall. His mind replayed the fight with Jake Harrison over and over. Jake entered the room alone, carrying 2 containers of food. He placed one in front of Krothak and sat across from him with the other. "You should eat," Jake said simply. Krothak looked at the food, then at Jake. "You keep me as a prisoner, yet you bring me food yourself. You are a strange human. You're not my prisoner. You're my guest." Jake took a bite of his own meal. "There's a difference. I came to kill you. I failed. By Vorash law, I am defeated. You should have executed me." Krothak's voice was heavy with confusion. Jake leaned back in his chair. "Your laws aren't my laws. I told you before, this war doesn't end with personal revenge. It ends when both our peoples stop trying to kill each other." For several days, Krothak remained aboard the Defiant. Jake visited him often, sometimes bringing Amy or Kyle with him. They talked about their cultures, their histories, their reasons for fighting. Krothak began to understand that humans were fundamentally different from the Vorash. Humans did not value strength above all else. They valued cooperation, adaptability, and something they called mercy. "Your people confuse me," Krothak admitted one day. "You are weak individually, yet strong together. You lose battles, but continue fighting. You could have killed me, but instead you feed me and talk to me like an equal." "Why?" Jake thought about his answer carefully. "Because we believe people can change. We believe enemies can become friends. It's not weakness, it's hope." Meanwhile, the war continued without Krothak. Command of the Vorash fleet fell to Zalren. The younger officer immediately faced difficult decisions. The Vorash High Council sent him new orders: commit everything to destroying humanity, even if it meant massive casualties. Zalren stood on his ship's bridge, reading the orders with growing concern. His communications officer approached him carefully. "Commander, the Council demands we deploy the orbital bombardment fleets. They want us to burn human colony worlds, civilian populations included." Zalren's claws dug into the armrest of his chair. "They order genocide. They order victory, sir. By any means necessary." For the first time in his life, Zalren questioned his leaders. He had watched the war against humanity unfold. He saw how the humans fought with determination and creativity. He saw how they protected their weak and refused to abandon their colonies. He also saw the reports about Krothak's capture. His commander had been spared by the enemy. That simple act of mercy confused every Vorash who heard about it. It planted seeds of doubt in their minds. Zalren made a bold decision. He opened a secret communication channel to General Lisa Morton on Earth. "General Morton, this is Commander Zalren of the Vorash fleet. I wish to discuss terms." On Earth, Lisa nearly fell out of her chair. Her staff looked at her in shock. A Vorash commander was requesting negotiations? This had never happened before. "Commander Zalren, this is General Morton. I'm listening. My superiors order me to destroy your colonies completely. I am questioning those orders. I have observed your people fight. You are not the weak species we believed you to be. Perhaps there is another way to end this conflict. Lisa chose her words carefully. What do you propose? I propose nothing yet. I need time to think. But I wanted you to know that not all Vorash support this war. Some of us believe our empire has become stagnant, that we have forgotten how to grow. The communication ended, but it changed everything. A crack had appeared in the Vorash unity. News of Jalren's communication reached the High Council within days. They were furious. They sent orders for his immediate arrest and execution. But many younger Vorash officers refused to carry out those orders. They stood with Jalren. The Vorash Empire began to split. Traditionalists who believed in the old ways of conquest and dominance fought against reformers who wanted to change. Civil war threatened to tear their society apart. Aboard the Defiant, Krothak learned about these developments. He listened to the reports in silence. Jake watched his reactions carefully. Your people are fighting each other now, Jake said, because of what happened between us. Krothak stood and walked to the small window in his room. He could see stars outside. My entire life I believed the Vorash way was the only way, strength above all, domination or death. Now I see it has made us brittle. We cannot adapt. We cannot change. When faced with an enemy who fights differently, we break. It's not too late to fix that, Jake offered. Krothak turned to face him. You truly believe that? After everything my people have done to yours? Yes, because I've seen you change just by being here. If you can change, others can too. Kyle entered the room, his expression serious. Captain, General Morton wants to speak with you immediately. It's urgent. Jake left Krothak and went to the bridge. The general's face appeared on the main screen, but she looked worried. Captain Harrison, we have a major problem. Our sensors detected something at the edge of explored space. Something big. The Vorash? Jake asked. No, something else. Something that's been hidden until now. Lisa transmitted data to the Defiant. Do you know about the Zathrene swarm? Jake felt his blood turn cold. Every spacefaring species had legends about the swarm. Ancient machines left behind by a civilization that had destroyed itself. The machines continued their original programming. Eliminate all biological life. I thought those were just stories, Jake said. So did everyone else. But the Vorash have been keeping them contained at the edge of their territory for centuries. With their civil war weakening their border defenses, the swarm is breaking through. Amy pulled up the sensor data. Her face went pale. Captain, there are thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands. If they reach inhabited space... The sentence did not need finishing. The Zathrene swarm would not negotiate, would not retreat, and would not stop until every living thing was dead. How long do we have? Jake asked. Best estimate? 3 weeks before they reach the first inhabited systems. Could be human. Could be Vorash. They don't care. Jake made a decision. Get me a communication line to Commander Jalren, and bring Krothak to the bridge. Minutes later, both Vorash leaders appeared on the bridge. Krothak arrived in person, while Jalren's image appeared on the screen. Both were shocked to see each other. Krothak, you're alive, Jalren said with obvious relief. I am. And we have larger problems than our war. Krothak gestured to Jake. Tell them. Jake explained the situation. He showed both Vorash commanders the sensor readings of the swarm. He laid out the timeline. At the current rate, the swarm would devastate multiple star systems within a month. Neither humans nor Vorash can stop this alone, Jake said bluntly. But together? Maybe we have a chance. Krothak spoke up. He is right. I have fought many battles, conquered many worlds, but I have also read the ancient records. The Zathrine swarm has destroyed entire civilizations. If we do not unite against them, we will all die. Jalren looked troubled. The High Council will never agree to alliance with humans. They would rather face extinction than admit we need help. Then we act without the Council, Krothak said firmly. You command half the fleet. I still have loyal followers. Combined with the human forces, we can mount a defense. General Lisa spoke up. This is madness. A week ago, we were trying to kill each other. Now you want us to fight side by side? Jake turned to face her image on the screen. General, I know it sounds crazy, but we've already proven that humans and Vorash can adapt when we need to. We've both changed our tactics during this war. We can change this too. There was a long silence. Everyone understood the stakes. This was not just about pride or territory anymore. This was about survival. Finally, Lisa nodded. All right, Captain, but this alliance is temporary. Once the swarm is dealt with, we'll address our own war. Jalren agreed. I will bring what forces I can, but many Vorash will refuse to fight alongside humans. Then bring the ones who will, Krothak said, and I will speak to my loyal warriors. They will follow me into this battle. The meeting ended with agreements to gather all available ships at a designated location. It would take time to organize, time they might not have. As everyone left the bridge, Amy approached Jake quietly. Sir, do you really think this can work? They've been trying to conquer us. Jake watched Krothak speaking with Jalren through the communication system. The two Vorash were already planning strategy together. A month ago, I would have said no, Jake admitted. But I've learned something. When survival is on the line, old enemies can become new allies. We just have to be willing to take that chance. And if they betray us, Amy asked, then we deal with it? But I don't think they will. Krothak could have escaped a dozen times. Jalren could have attacked while our fleet was scattered. They're both choosing cooperation. That means something. The Defiant set course for the rendezvous point. Behind them, human and Vorash ships began to gather. An impossible alliance was forming. Born from necessity but carrying a spark of something more, understanding. The combined fleet gathered at the edge of the Black Rift, a region of space where stars had long ago died and left only darkness. Human ships and Vorash vessels positioned themselves side by side in formations that would have been impossible just weeks earlier. Jake stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the massive display showing their forces. 200 human vessels, mostly smaller ships built for speed. 300 Vorash cruisers and carriers built for raw power. It was still not enough, not against what was coming. Sensor contact, Amy announced. The swarm is approaching. My God, there are so many. The sensors showed what looked like a wall of red dots. Thousands upon thousands of Zathrine machines moved through space in perfect formation. Each machine was the size of a small ship, covered in weapons and armor. They had no pilots, no crews, just ancient programming that commanded them to destroy. Krothak stood beside Jake on the bridge. The massive Vorash warrior had been given honorary status as tactical advisor. I have seen recordings of the swarm. They are worse than I imagined. Can we win? Jake asked him directly. If we fight as separate forces? No. But if we truly fight as one? Krothak paused. Perhaps. Your tactics combined with our strength might be enough. General Lisa's face appeared on the main screen. She was coordinating from Earth but had sent her best ships to the battle. All forces, this is General Morton. The swarm will not negotiate. They will not retreat. They exist only to eliminate biological life. Today, we fight not as humans or Vorash, but as living beings defending our right to exist. Commander Jalren's voice came through on the shared communication channel. Vorash warriors, you have been taught that humans are weak. You have been told they are not worthy of respect. I tell you now, those teachings were wrong. The humans have shown courage and determination equal to any Vorash. Today, we fight alongside them with honor." Some Vorash warriors grumbled at this, but most remained silent. They had seen enough of human tactics to know their enemy was formidable. The swarm entered weapons range. They fired first, launching thousands of missiles. The combined fleets scattered according to the battle plan. Human ships used their speed to draw fire while Vorash vessels provided heavy firepower. "All fighters, engage at will," Jake commanded. "Remember the plan. Hit and run. Don't let them lock onto you." Kyle led a squadron of marine boarding craft. His mission was unusual. Board some of the swarm machines and plant explosives inside them. It was incredibly dangerous work. "This is Brooks, going in hot," Kyle reported as his craft dodged incoming fire. His team managed to attach to a swarm machine. They cut through its hull and entered its interior. Inside was a nightmare of ancient technology, all dedicated to destruction. Kyle's Marines planted their charges quickly and escaped just before the machine exploded. "One down, several thousand to go," Kyle said grimly. On the Defiant, Amy coordinated with Vorash tactical officers to direct the fleet's movements. It was awkward at first. Vorash tactics emphasized direct assault, while human tactics favored maneuver and deception, but slowly they found ways to combine their strengths. "Vorash Squadron 3, hold position and provide covering fire," Amy ordered. "Human Squadrons 7 and 8 flank their left side and hit them from behind." The Vorash commander acknowledged the order without complaint. He had seen these tactics work at Titan Station. The battle raged for hours. Ships on both sides took damage and were destroyed. The space around the Black Rift filled with debris and explosions. The swarm pressed forward relentlessly, never tiring, never afraid. "We're losing too many ships," Jake said, watching the tactical display. "At this rate, they'll overwhelm us through sheer numbers." Krothak studied the enemy formation. "The swarm moves in perfect coordination. There must be a central control somewhere. If we destroy it, the others might lose organization." "Finding one ship in that mass is impossible," Amy protested. "Not if we make them reveal it," Jake said, an idea forming. "What if we fake a retreat? Pull back like we're fleeing. The swarm will pursue. If there's a command ship, it will have to move forward to maintain control over the others." "That is a very risky plan," Krothak observed. Jake smiled grimly. "It's also a very human plan. Jalren, are you willing to try this?" The Vorash commander hesitated only briefly. "I will trust your judgment, Captain Harrison. All Vorash ships, prepare to fall back on my command." The combined fleet began a coordinated retreat. It looked chaotic and disorganized, as if they were fleeing in panic. The swarm pursued eagerly, sensing victory. Amy watched her sensors carefully. "There, in the center of their formation. One ship is giving off different energy readings. It's directing the others." "That's our target," Jake confirmed. "All ships on my mark, we turn and hit that center ship with everything we have." They waited until the swarm was fully committed to the pursuit. Then Jake gave the order. "Now! All vessels, attack pattern Omega!" The fleet turned as one and charged back into the swarm. Human ships provided cover while Vorash cruisers focused all their firepower on the command vessel. The concentrated attack overwhelmed its defenses. Kyle's voice came through. "Captain, my team is closest. We can board that ship and make sure it's destroyed from the inside." "Do it," Jake ordered. Kyle's craft dodged through the chaos and attached to the command ship. His Marines breached the hull and fought their way inside. The interior was heavily defended by smaller machines, but Kyle's team had fought through worse. "Charges planted," Kyle reported. "Pulling back now." The explosion that followed was massive. The command ship disintegrated, and immediately the rest of the swarm began to behave erratically. Without central coordination, they bumped into each other, fired randomly, and lost their perfect formations. "All ships, press the attack," General Lisa ordered. "They're disorganized. This is our chance." The combined fleet tore into the confused swarm. Vorash warriors roared their battle cries while human pilots whooped with excitement. For the first time, they were winning. But victory came with a cost. Near the end of the battle, a group of swarm machines targeted the Defiant specifically. They damaged the ship's engines, leaving it drifting. A massive swarm machine, larger than the others, approached for the kill. Jake ordered evacuation, but there was not enough time. The machine's weapons charged. Suddenly, Krothak's personal ship rammed the swarm machine from the side. The impact destroyed both vessels. Through the debris, Jake saw escape pods launching from Krothak's ship. "Krothak!" Jake shouted. "Report!" Static. Then the Vorash warrior's voice came through weakly. "I am here, Jake Harrison. My ship is destroyed, but I am alive. It seems we are even now." Jake felt relief wash over him. "Amy, get a recovery team to those pods immediately." The battle ended an hour later. The swarm was destroyed or scattered. The combined fleet had suffered heavy casualties, but they survived. More importantly, they won. In the aftermath, human and Vorash crews worked together to recover survivors and repair damaged ships. The barriers between them had broken down during the fight. They had bled together, fought together, and won together. A ceremony was held in space, broadcast to both Earth and the Vorash homeworld. Jake and Krothak stood together, surrounded by survivors from both species. General Lisa and Commander Jalren appeared on screens beside them. "We gather here to honor our fallen," Jake began, "human and Vorash alike. They gave their lives defending all of us. We will not forget them." One by one, names were read. Human names and Vorash names, spoken with equal respect. As each name was called, a light was released into space, representing that warrior's spirit. When all names had been read, Jake and Krothak knelt together in the traditional position of mourning. The massive alien warrior and the small human captain, side by side, paying respects to their dead. "I only kneel to bury you," Jake said softly. "That's what I told you at New Portland. I meant it as a threat, but now it means something else." Krothak's voice was solemn. "Now it means we honor those who fell so others could live. It means we remember why we fight." The ceremony ended, but the alliance did not. General Lisa and Commander Jalren negotiated a formal treaty. The war between humans and Vorash was officially over. Trade agreements and cultural exchanges were planned. The Vorash High Council tried to reject the treaty, but Jalren had the support of most of the fleet. The old council was replaced with new leadership that understood the need for change. Krothak was offered a position on this new council. He accepted, promising to help guide his people toward cooperation rather than conquest. Jake returned to Earth briefly for medical treatment and debriefing. He was promoted to admiral and offered a comfortable desk job at Fleet Command. He politely declined. "I belong on the Defiant," he told General Lisa. "Out there, making sure this alliance stays strong." She smiled. "I expected that answer." "Very well, Admiral Harrison. You'll command the Joint Task Force, working with both human and Vorash crews." Back on the Defiant, Jake's crew celebrated. They had survived what should have been impossible. Kyle's Marines shared stories with Vorash warriors, each side impressed by the other's tactics. Amy coordinated with Vorash tactical officers, developing new combined strategies. Krothak visited the Defiant one last time before returning to Vorash space. He found Jake on the observation deck, looking at the stars. "I wanted to thank you," Krothak said. "You could have killed me. You could have left me to die when the swarm attacked. Instead, you saved me multiple times." Jake turned to face him. "You did the same for me. That's what allies do." Allies. Krothak tested the word. "I never thought I would call a human that, but I am glad to be proven wrong." They stood together in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Krothak spoke again. "What will you do now, Jake Harrison. Keep exploring, keep learning, make sure our people continue to work together. Jake smiled. There's a whole galaxy out there. Who knows what else we'll find? Then I hope we find it together, Krothak said. Because I have learned something from you humans. Strength is not just about power. It is about adaptability, cooperation, and the refusal to give up. Those are lessons my people needed to learn. Krothak left, and Jake remained on the observation deck. He thought about everything that had happened. Months ago, he had faced Krothak in a burning colony and refused to kneel. That moment had started a war, but also began a change in how both species saw each other. Now that war was over, replaced by an alliance born from necessity, but growing into genuine respect. Jake had learned that enemies could become friends, that the strongest bonds were forged in the hardest trials. He remembered the burial ceremony, kneeling beside Krothak to honor the dead. That moment had transformed his defiant statement into a promise. They would kneel only to bury their fallen, to remember the cost of their survival, and to honor those who sacrificed everything. The Defiant prepared to leave orbit, beginning a new mission as part of the joint Human-Vorash patrol. As the ship entered faster-than-light travel, Jake took one last look at the stars behind them. Somewhere out there were new challenges, new threats, and new opportunities. But whatever came next, humanity would face it with their heads held high and allies at their side. They had proven that determination, creativity, and the willingness to extend mercy could overcome even the most fearsome enemies. Jake Harrison smiled. The galaxy was vast and full of mysteries, and humanity was ready to face them all. Kneeling for no one except to honor their dead, standing tall in the face of any challenge. The war was over, the alliance had begun, and the future, uncertain as it was, looked brighter than ever before.